Okay, welcome everyone from Robotics for EU and the NTNU team. So I will be very brief just to give you an idea of what's Robotics for EU and what is our project about. So Robotics for EU, it's a European project whose main purpose is that to ensure a more widespread adoption and societal acceptance of robotics. And how we do this is we do this by focusing on what are the non-technological aspects of robotics. So what does this mean? You can see a little bit here on the slide that we are have activities around raising awareness about what are the social issues that can arise from implementing robotics. We promote knowledge transfer between different stakeholders. And then we also have a component where we give advice and good practice to robotics developers, especially by developing the responsible robotics compass, which is the final and most important outcome of our project. Could you go to the next slide? We focus on 4 different areas, the healthcare, inspection and maintenance, agri-food, and agile production. And this is, of course, part of the activities that we do in the area of agile production, this workshop today. And then we have 2 cross-cutting themes around the community and the human-robot collaboration. This is just a very brief introduction about what we do and what our activities, and the main purpose of this introduction is also to ask you to collaborate and reach out if you think that some of the activities that we do could be interesting for you, your work and your company. If you go to the next slide, you can see a little bit of what we have done in the past until now. So we have done a societal needs analysis with a survey and interviews to understand what are the most pressing issues when it comes to non-technological aspects of robotics, a citizen consultation with 700 citizens, sector workshops like this one in the 4 different sector areas that we are focusing on. Then we have co-creation workshops. We already had 2 co-creation workshops this year, and we have 2 upcoming ones in October, where we have more of an interactive process between robotics producers and the end users. We had online citizen consultations and also a virtual exhibition, a VR exhibition where people can go to a different location and see the different robots and the different solutions developed in a very fun way, I think. And then what we are doing right now, we are concentrating also on making some policy recommendations that our colleague Jovita will talk about later. And so also to put all of the work that we have been doing in consultations to fruition and put it into some policy recommendations. As I said, we still have 2 co-creation workshops coming up. And we are developing the Responsible Robotics Compass to be put on the AI on Demand platform. So we will also hear more about that later in this meeting. But that is the most, yes, that's the most interesting part of our workshop and our project. And if you, as I said, if you think any of this is interesting for your work, feel free to reach out to us. And I give the word back to you, Osnur. You're muted, Osnur.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now yes.
Yeah, so I will now briefly talk about the theme, which is community building. So we'll be talking basically about why is it important to build a sustainable robotics ecosystem for agile production. And we will also be talking about the best community building practices and network building practices. And for that, we are lucky to have like real life examples. Our keynote speakers will also talk about real life examples of the best practices to build a successful and healthy network. And we'll also be talking a bit about what are the best possible means to enhance relations among different stakeholders. So I will now give the floor to Jovita, and she will focus on the policy dimension that is also quite important for us.
Thank you, Asner. Hello, everyone. My name is Evita, and I'm coming from Civita, one of the partners of Robotics for EU project. And Sylvia has mentioned one of our tasks now on the project till the end of year is to prepare policy recommendations for European Commission to prepare a report which would focus on what could be done from the policymakers' perspectives to advocate for responsible robotics implementation in the robotics industry. So this report contains different recommendations, and we can stay on the previous slide, Asner. Yes, thank you. The report focuses in general on various recommendations for policymakers, national and international, as well for the industry representatives on how to implement those responsible robotics principles on the strategical and policy level. And as it comes to agile production and the topic of this workshop, as we are talking about community building, I invite you in the discussions and in the presentations when we're talking about the measures of how the communities could be strengthened and what is the role of the community building and communities kind of role in enhancing responsible robotics principles. I invite you to think of what could be the policy roles and what regulations and policy measures could be needed to strengthen these communities and maybe to ignite the formation and establishing the stronger roles of the communities. It could maybe be done through establishing legal frameworks. It could be done by strengthening, redefining the roles of end users engagement, of trade unions, maybe refining and redefining the agreements between various stakeholders and finding new ways of engagement. And of course, the community building is dependent on various stakeholders and their roles in the process. But what we want to crystallize and focus on from the policy dimension is what could be the role of regulation and what could we suggest to policymakers where to focus and what is important. So we will be able to talk about that more, I guess, and I hope in the discussions, but I just wanted to present that for the sake of shifting our focus a bit on the, or introducing this focus in the discussions as we hear the presentations as well. So that's it from me. And oh no, one more thing actually. I wanted to mention that we have a policy discussion in response Data, Artificial Intelligence and Robotics Forum, which is upcoming in November 8th and 9th. So I'll share the link in the chat. You can check in to see if you would like to participate. It's a great event for the robotics community in general, and we will have our workshop on the responsible robotics there as well. So just a little announcement on the upcoming policy event from Europe, from Robotics for EU. Thank you. That's it from me. Let's go to other parts now, please.
Now we'll ask you to fill in the initial poll. So you'll have 5 minutes to do that. Can you initiate the poll, Sylvia?
Yes, the poll?
Yeah, do you all see the poll? Perfect.
So how can we fill in this poll?
You should see it in the close to the chat.
Yes.
I'm not mistaken. Yes.
Oh, there should be a link in the chat or what?
No, it's a Zoom poll, so it should appear in your chat directly. Can the others see it? Or not in the chat, but close to it?
It must appear, yeah, close by to the chat.
I do have the chat open, but I don't know how I can vote on it.
It opens also in my but I cannot see any link. So
You
It
can't see
pops
that.
up as a separate box in Zoom. So I see we have gotten 5 responses. So
Yes.
maybe you can check if Zoom has opened another window for you.
It's also possible on the bottom of the Zoom meeting, you see those 3 dots that says more. And from there, I was able to open the poll.
okay, yes, we need to press this polls and the quizzes.
And otherwise, it's next on the left side on the poll if you're in full screen mode.
I see we have 8 answers. So seems that it's working. 10
Yeah.
now.
11
So,
now, yeah, 12.
as you can see, it's just a poll to understand a little bit what is your profile, but also what you expect from this event and what is your already previous knowledge about non-technological aspects of robotics. And for the long answers, it would be great if you can type in the chat for the last 2 questions. What do you think about what are the main obstacles to advancing community building in robotics and what measures could be introduced to strengthen community building?
Now the poll is finished. Thank you for that.
I think we can wait a little bit more, Osnod. We have 18 answers on this, so
Yeah, sure. So you can finalize, Sylvia, when you deem it right. Yeah, so we see that it is mostly.
do you want me to end it?
You can end it when you want. So we have participants from the academy and mostly from the industry, but also from civil society. And we see that there is a need for more emphasis on the importance of human-machine collaboration and increased synergy between different stakeholders. Maybe we can finish it, finalize it. What do you think, Sylvia?
Yes, I think you closed it.
Yeah. Thank you for your responses. Now we will give the floor to Lucas Rebond from Civita, and he will be giving information to you about responsible robotics compass.
Yes, thank you so much. Nice to meet you all. Will you do the slide deck?
Shall I continue to share my screen, Lucas? Or
Sure.
would you like to
Yes.
share
Then I
yours?
would like to have the next slide, please.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've been developing a robot compass, and we're trying to make a tool that robotic developers can use, end users can use, and are also beneficial for society at large. And it's like an online compass where we measure risks and mitigation steps taken in various non-technological barriers. So if you can skip a bit forward. We have been kind of testing this tool a lot of different times with robotics companies, but we would love to also hear input from your side on this, which would slowly build this tool from the ground up, and basically it would become a tool that can help robotics developers self-assess themselves and see in what areas they still have barriers for adoption, and they can see where they can improve their robots to become more friendly, let's say like this, for society. I believe on the next slides we have the categories that we're currently using. So these are the 5 we've identified. Later on, after the break, we will go into separate breakout rooms and spend more time in each of these these categories. And we'll try to brainstorm more about the certain risks that play in each of those categories, as well as the mitigation steps that robot developers might take to avoid those risks, or to at least minimize the negative impacts associated with those risks. Maybe you can scan a little bit before. Yeah, so each of those subcategories, our categories are in subcategories as well. And you can skip a bunch now, so we can kind of see. I've included some pictures on the next slide, I believe. More. This basically goes into how it's separated. So yeah, this is one of the visuals from the online tool where you can see that that we're measuring the risk and mitigation steps separately for each of those subcategories. And this will be available on the AI On Demand platform, which is currently under development, but we are still working on it, and we give you some sneak previews on this later in the break as well. Maybe you can move to the next one. Maybe also the next one. I put a bunch of screenshots in here for you to look at later. Maybe if you have the slide deck, maybe the next one as well. I know that I only have 5 minutes, so I'll try to stay in time. The next one, please. Yeah, so here, I don't know if you can see, I would definitely recommend also opening the tool later. But basically, we take a checkbox approach. So for example, here, we take data usage, and we kind of list all the checkboxes that are associated with some risks that are related to how you can use data. The robot developer will here click on those that apply to them, and it will give a certain risk score. Below, you see the checklist for mitigation steps. Here, again, the robot developer can put in the checklist on what applies to that. This will give you a final score and an overview, as well as some direct recommendations based on what you put in as a checklist. So we can recommend a certain action, and also promote maybe a deliverable from another consortium that's working on this, or a tool that could help you implement those mitigation steps, or those steps to reduce your risks. What we're trying to do here is do a bottom-up approach. So this is not fully developed yet, but we want the robot developers to be able to extend this list with other options that we would measure. And this way we can actually automatically update this tool and keep it growing and keeping relevant. So when we see, for example, there is a certain data risk that's mentioned, I don't know, 10 times, we see, maybe useful to include that here as well. And during or after the break, what we're going to do is we're going to go more into those checklists and see, do you think it's comprehensive? Do we mention everything? What's missing? Are we rephrasing something maybe a little bit bad that we can adjust? And from that, we can gather a lot of different information that we can use to make that tool better. You can skip ahead a little bit. I don't know how much time I still have, but yeah, so basically in the end, you'll get a final report on how you're doing with risks versus mitigation. And maybe the next one. Yes, this is again the kind of final report. I will go into detail about what it means. And here we show you that you can do multiple reporting cycles per robot. So you can keep track of your progress over time, which is really cool because it's a self-assessment tool. There's no like label attached to it. We don't try to tell you you're doing something bad, but really we're just trying to show you what you've done correctly and where you can still grow. So yeah, this kind of multiple reporting features, it's pretty nice to have for tracking this over time. Talking about overtime, I think I am overtime. So during the break, you could scan this QR code and check out the RoboCompass online. Alternatively, I would maybe even recommend doing it on your computer by going to that link that was previously set here. So I don't know, during the break, maybe we can keep this up so you can kind of type it. It does require you to make an account, but yeah, we'll go into that also later. So you don't have to, but I would strongly recommend it to just take a peek at it. And that's it for me.
Yes, thank you. And now we will have a break. And can you all hear me?
No, also, we have the keynote speakers. It's not in this slide set.
Yeah.
But they are here.
Yeah,
I
so
thought so. I was so early in my presentation.
Yeah, right. We will have the keynote speakers with us. So let's give the floor to Gabor, and I will just stop sharing my screen.
So if I talk too fast, don't worry, you'll hear me again before the break.
I hope you can see my screen and also that you can hear me. Is that correct?
Everything
Yes.
works perfect. Thank you, Gabor.
Okay, good. So welcome everyone. My name is Gabor Sibig and I'm a research manager at Syntef Manufacturing. So for those who don't know what is Syntef, it's a research organization situated in Norway, based in Norway. It is Scandinavia's one of the largest. We have similarly sized and similarly competitive like the VTT in Finland, or for example, TNO in Netherlands or Fraunhofer in Germany. So it's that's the space where I'm operating, and I will be presenting today a slide of the view on the technical aspects, and I will also be addressing the political aspects of use of robots in different scenarios. So what I will be kind of giving you a kind of a tour here of the use of robots, especially for small and medium-sized enterprises. So those enterprises, those give the majority in the European economy, those have a real need to actually apply and use robotics, especially industrial robotics, in their production line, for example, because we are the domain that I'm operating in. It is in agile manufacturing, and also that's the reason why hopefully I was invited today here. So let's give you the small tour. So first of all, SMEs, they are the majority. And most of them have heard about automation, for example, and especially they have also heard about the industrial revolution. Everyone heard about the fourth industrial revolution. Now this is with us over 10 years now. And also now we arrive to the fifth industrial revolution with the human-centric design and so on. So these companies, these SMEs who are up to 50 people, most of them. They are really in a need in order to be kind of challenged, and also to show the way how to apply automation and how to be more competitive in the European market. And this is what actually our role as a research institute, to help these companies to get on this journey, and also to supervise them how to do it. And when we ask them and ask the question that what is their biggest obstacle and how do they see the market, and why do not really enter this domain of the fourth or the fifth industrial revolution, they say that our biggest challenge per today, it is they have a too small batch size. So they, for example, produce one piece at a time, and that's all. So their turnaround time and also adaptation time is too high. The other one is that they are doing their business as they did like 50 years ago, mostly manual work, and there is no process to be automated. So they don't know how to start. Their third fear is that this is too expensive for them. So they think that in order to apply robotics, in order to apply automation, the way to go is a lot of money. And they are not so far away from the truth. It is always an expensive journey. And the other one is that whenever you apply a robot or you want to use a robot, you will immediately face the challenge that the robot is not a machine that can solve all your problems. So you always have to have a personnel who is competent enough, who have the necessary competence to actually to supervise the robot, that what the robot is doing. And I could continue on this one, but also due to the time limit, I will try to limit myself here. The rest of the kind of reasons you can also read here, because I would like to speak more about the solution. The solution, which starts with a very simple fact that money is a solution, which is partly true and which is also partly not true, because McKinsey created a report that at least from the Norwegian market, they analyzed the manufacturing domain. And they have seen that from the jobs that are done and the jobs that are active today in the Norwegian market, 60% of them could be automated if you have the necessary resources. So SMEs, they don't have the necessary resources. The way to go is actually to provide these SMEs kind of high technological solutions in order to automate the 60% that can be automated in order to increase the competitiveness. So the solution is to create automated, adapted automation for low volume and low cost production. Okay, that's the goal. And also to employ the workers who create added value with the highest amount of kind of contribution, that they are able to replace the manual work with an automated solution. And this is the way how it can be. You can create highly automated processes in high cost land like Norway, and to create the shift from humans to be skilled in different settings. So to shift the human workers from very dull and dirty work, from doing manual work, into something like that. You can call it as supervision work. And this is the way to go. The way to go is within most of the cases, it can be said that it is with industrial robotics. Industrial robotics is, it can be applied in most of the cases. And what we can see over the years, that the application of the robotic solution, the cost of it has highly decreased, and it is decreasing year by year, because the cost is the largest part on the application where you have the engineering in place. So in order to plan for application of the robotic solution, the engineering time is the costly one. So if you provide, for example, and the success of the collaborative robots can be measured in this, that if you can provide low engineering solutions that are based on collaborative robots, there it is the way to actually argue and also pursue SMEs to adapt to automation and with this into robotic systems. So you actually lower this barrier, this economical barrier that most of the SMEs have. And collaborative robots is one of the way to go here. Because everyone can remember back, and I hope that the video is showing at your place, that the very first kind of SME robot project that was launched in 2005 in the framework 6 of the European Commission, it was already having a really high ambition that they will be creating robots that can be used every day by in any circumstances, which you can easily teach, which you can say that what you would like to use it for. And this video clip, it is from 2007 from the SME robot project. And the project itself, it was a great success. And you know what you have created here? I hope that everyone is aware of the KUKA lightweight robotic arm. This is one of the outcomes. So the research and development is pushing the boundaries to actually to create an adaptation of the robotic solution for those who have, for example, don't have the economical muscles like the big automobile companies. And research and development is helping these companies. So it's a long road because this one started almost 20 years ago when the need for the collaborative robots appeared on the market. And per today, we have really successful collaborative robots that can be used. And I will be showing some more kind of use of these robots in different settings. This is from a local national Norwegian robotic solution. This is actually from our own laboratory, where we use a software solution actually to kind of overcome the limitation or the flexibility of the systems in SME-friendly environment. So we program robots out from software solutions and provide the necessary intelligence on software side and also the flexibility with, for example, use of simple machine vision algorithms and QR codes. This is understandable also for the SMEs and also adaptable. They can recognize that these technologies, yes, I can use it. So you can adapt your process and you can kind of streamline your process to use a robot from off-the-shelf solutions, like the similar one what you can see here on the screen. So we use simple techniques and to show the SMEs that this is totally reasonable and feasible solution. With a simple collaborative robot, you can buy it off the shelf. The software is open source, and the rest is kind of a small adaptation for the SME to create an automated process. So we see that the research and development is helping the SMEs in order to achieve their competitive edge and also to be more responsible on the market itself. And my last example here is from an EU project that's called Trinity. This is also in the agile manufacturing part, where the collaborative robotic solution is combined with human-robot collaboration. This was also mentioned by Sylvia in the introduction. So this is a cross-cutting domain where you would like to create coexistence between the human and the robot working on the same problem in the same direction and actually creating an interaction between human and robot in order to achieve a common goal, which is in this case, it is an assembly process where the robot is handling the hard part, the movement of harder parts like heavy, and also the human doing what's his best in it, for example, setting in screws, what you can see here. And the last part where I would like to also kind of enhance that where it could go, and which is something is also still a goal for most of the SMEs. So you are able to also achieve very flexible automation with the usage of the data source that was also mentioned here. So if you know that what kind of data you are working with, you are able to plan production 100% neutrally and adapt it to real environment. For example, on the video that you can see here, this is a high precision assembly with heavy objects. Everything is generated on the fly, only from the CAD drawing, and a high payload robot is used in order to assemble. And in this case, it is a electrical motor and its components, and everything is fully automated. So you have the possibility there with the data sources. Or the other side, which we can also use the data and to plan robotic motion. On the right side with this in the wire arc additive manufacturing, I think for many of you, this is also not science fiction. It is very feasible. You need an adapted robotic system to that, but you can generate the robotic task very much easily here. And then some closing remarks. What we are working with and what we try to show the SMEs that they are capable of much more they need to be competitive, and the competitiveness comes with automation, either in form of robotics or not with robotics, but some kind of an automation solution. There is no off-the-shelf solution. They need to have kind of an adaptation, which they in default they cannot afford. But this software, you are able to create very much a flexible system, and there is a huge need for plug-and-produce components. From the policy side, and this is why I was asked to speak about the policies, what we are facing per today on the policy and on the legislation is that the systems are made stupid-proof. So human workers, even though are way much capable, they are very much limited by the legislation. And we need to create an environment where both the human and also the robot trust each other. So today, all the systems, you put the robot behind the bar is the reason that you are immediately have a feeling that it is a fear around that system, that you should not be in the neighborhood and it could harm you. If you create systems that are able to interact with human and you can trust this automation, then you will be really creating coexistence between human and the machine itself. But at baseline, you always have to protect the human at the end. So the question that I was asked to raise you, dear audience, it's about what can we foresee when humans working close to or next to robots could, if they are able to take the risk or not. Because for SMEs to create 100% automated systems that are separated from the co-worker and who only just follows orders, that's a very high investment cost. But can we sacrifice the high increments cost in accepting that the system can make failure? The system is also able to create mistakes. So can we allow that the system is able to interact with a human, even though that it is not stupid-proof? So thank you very much. I hope you like the journey, and I am looking for your questions.
Thanks a lot, Gabor. Are there any questions on the side of the audience? If not immediately, we can also take them after the second keynote speech, if we will still have Gabor with us. Would you prefer to have the questions now, Gabor?
Yeah, I will remain up to the break, so you can we can wait with the question later on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question then. I guess if we're going, but I see Imra also has his hand up. I'll let him go first.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you for the presentation, Gabor. Probably you are from Hungary.
Correct.
So my question is, you mentioned that the cost related to advanced industrial robots are decreasing. Do you see the trend also for integration? Because the same amount of money should be allocated actually to the integration part as for buying an industrial robot.
Yes, that's correct. And I will go back to the slide where I was showing this part. So it's what I was kind of highlighting here, and maybe I went too fast. So the cost of the robot is going down as all the electrical components have been becoming cheaper up to COVID. That's the other thing. And also this engineering work, so that how you introduce it into the bigger manufacturing execution system, that has been also been decreasing. So all the parts with the commissioning and integration toward other systems like a CNC machine, other production supervision systems, that has been also going down. So at least what we see in the SME market is that if they would like to have a purchase, for them, the systems are becoming cheaper from every year, because most of the things are now planned in virtual reality and planned in beforehand. And this will also the need for kind of system integrators to be on the spot and to help them to set up the system. So that's where we see that virtualization of commissioning process and also the engineering time with using of either templates from before or understanding and analyzing their processes offline. It helps them to kind of decrease the speed of the total cost. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have another question? I think I saw another hand raising. If not, we can go to the other. We can give the floor to the other speakers.
Jose had the question.
So that I did want to ask my question then. So my question was, you said that the cost for engineering and for safety were high, and so one option would be to say we can allow for an injury, and they're sort of saying from our expectation of what should and should not happen that we're trying to reduce that. Now, was that a correct understanding of what you're saying, that you're advocating that we should change the let's say the biomechanical limits, or that we should as a society say that it's okay for people to become injured when working with a collaborative robot? Or did I misunderstand?
No, you were totally correctly understanding. So I'm not advocating for that we should get people injured, but I would say that we need to change the way how we expect the behavior from a robotic, for example, from a collaborative robotic system to behave. So as soon as you put the system behind the bars and you kind of separate yourself, then you know that this is a dangerous system. And the reason why you do that is the legislation that even though I would sprint over the system, it needs to stop within X amount of seconds, which is I would say we should accept more closer collaboration between the robot if you know the robot's limitations. So I would say per today's safety systems, you cannot stand next to a high payload robot within the reach of its arm because of the regulations or the production speed of the system. If you would like to combine the cycle time of the production system with the acceptable knowledge that if I move my head in the wrong direction and I'm aware of that, that's the robot region to operate, then I could get injured. And today's system doesn't allow that. Did I make the point, Jose, for you?
Yeah. I don't agree with you, but
Okay.
But then it's okay. Then that's maybe something for another round.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, good. Thanks.
I also see that we have Jovita who wants to say something.
Yeah, I would like to follow up on this conversation that is happening here as well on the safety and policy and the trust issue. So just to understand what you're saying, Gabor, if I'm pronouncing it right, so that means if we are allowing for a closer collaboration and more space for mistakes on the robot behalf, that means that the more responsibility shifted to the user, right? Then, so how does it work from the workers' rights perspective, and how do you still ensure that the worker is in the position where the wrong movement, let's say, is not, ascribed as his kind of responsibility of being, following all the rules and still being able to secure his welfare in a workspace, so to say.
Yeah. The trickiness is that what behavior you accept from your colleague. So if the collaborative robots, for example, they meant to kind of create a co-worker and coexistence with the human itself, but still they are programmed and foreseen as a machine. So if you would like to move this out from them, so you have to accept the same mistakes from the machine as from your coworker. So if you would, example, truck drivers who are driving trucks, if they hit you with the truck while you are going next to them, it's a liability question of that who was instructing the machine. Of course, it's an accident which happened, but in one case, you are able to kind of create or punish the truck driver who made the mistakes. while in robotics it's not allowed to, or if this happens, then the manufacturer is punished in this way. I don't know, I don't have a clear answer here that what would be the best solution, but this is the discussion also picked up by technologies that are having an impact on the human life. So it's not you will not get an answer immediately to this, but while machines are limited, they will always be machines. That's the point. From social science, I'm not in that part. I have not good answer there. Sorry.
Thank you. Though it makes sense that if we are not able to solve this liability question, then we resort to zero mistake scenario. And the liability question is still very much open, I guess, in the industry and of robotics and AI in general. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands up. So I think now we can give the floor to our next keynote speaker. Thank you, Gabor, again. And I think it was also interesting about the question of the relationship between workers and worker representatives and the industry and the different stakeholders and the relationships and the issues that might occur in this process. So really, thank you. Thanks a lot. And now, yeah, Jose Sainz from Fraunhofer IFF, and we have Karol Janik from the same institution, from Manufacturing Technology, from Manufacturing Technology Center. They will be talking about building a successful robotics network, and they will be telling about their experiences in EU robotics. Please.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm going to jump right in, give you a quick overview. And for me, it's interesting to be here because, as you'll see in a second, I've been working with EU robotics for quite some time now. And I often get asked to talk as an expert in robotics, robot safety, human-robot interaction, and things like that. But talking about my experiences from my other perspective as a member of EU Robotics and as a topic group coordinator is new for me. So this is kind of interesting, and I hope that some of the things that we've experienced will be interesting for you and for your organization and for your endeavors. So we're going to do a quick introduction of who we are, hop in a bit about challenges in robotics and why I think networks are really important and really special for robotics, and then just dive in with some experiences, things that we've seen from EU robotics, from the topic groups, and then specifically from the topic group industrial robotics, and with some recommendations, and then leave some time hopefully for some questions. Okay, so as you said, I won't be doing this alone. So my name is Jose Sainz. I work in Fraunhofer IFF in Magdeburg, Germany. Fraunhofer, you know, the largest association for applied research in Europe. And here working on robotics, on assistive service industrial robotics. I've been a member of EU Robotics since it was founded. I've been coordinating the topic group industrial robotics since 2014, and I've been in the board of directors of EU Robotics since 2017. And I'm really happy to introduce my coordinator for the topic group industrial robots since, I would say, about 2 months, Karol Janik. So Karol, I'm going to pass this on to you.
Thank you very much, Jose. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Karol Janik, and I'm technology manager in robotics, automation, and mechatronics group at the Manufacturing Technology Center, not Fraunhofer, but we are a very similar organization. We are an RPO in the UK, very similar to Fraunhofer and very similar to Syntef, actually. But we are very much aligned towards developing and adopting technology within the industry. In my role, I'm responsible for the technology development strategy in those fields, and I'm also deputy coordinator for e-robotics, industrial robotics topic group, and coordinator of telerobotics topic group. So today I'll give you a brief overview of the non-technical challenge with adopting robotics for agile productions and how networks such as e-robotics and other activities can help your agile production or your technology focused on it. And I'm glad that Gabor gave his keynote before us because it was a good introduction of some of the manufacturing challenges. So let's look at the crossover between robotics and manufacturing domains. Robotics is a complex and interdisciplinary field. with mechanical engineering, electrical engineering domains, sensing, controls, safety. Then you have various expert domains like perception, human-robot interaction, and many others. And manufacturing itself is equally complex field with multiple technical domains and multiple fields of expertise, from product design, process design, tooling, fixturing, operation, maintenance, and so on. And when we look at the adoption of robotic technologies in production, we effectively talk about very complex interaction of multiple stakeholders, from technology providers, systems integrators, manufacturing, engineering, and maintenance functions, workforce itself and their representatives, health and safety through finance. And even for small SME trying to adopt robotics, we might end up with this complex matrix of stakeholders that need to work together in harmony to make those solutions successfully adopted with positive business impact. So it doesn't really sound like it's an easy thing if our agile production must be quickly responding to the changing demands. And what we can do to help ourselves to navigate through the ecosystem of stakeholders and how networks really can help us. So first of all, and especially if you're a manufacturer or technology provider working for a manufacturer, can you go back?
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Especially if you're a manufacturer or manufacturing company working for technology provider working for manufacturing company, you need to get all stakeholders involved from the day one and get them working together in one team, which can be very challenging actually. And I have a really good example of the work that we've been doing with quite large and well-established UK manufacturer that don't have experience with robotics, and that we're looking at the adoption of some of the agile welding robots. And from the day one, we met opposition from the workforce with classic, this won't work here. That's not how we've been doing things. So we took them on a journey together with management team and technology teams. And in a short amount of time, we actually ended up with adopting quite a few robotic systems, and workforce ended absolutely loving them. And it brought massive business benefits. But if we would just drop even the best solutions on the workforce without the right engagement and consultation, it just wouldn't work out. So getting your stakeholders together on the journey is extremely important. You should also aim to build teams with cross-domain expertise to be able to have this holistic overview on your challenges and solutions. And overall engineering won't simply work for agile production. And you should always remember that you don't know what you don't know, especially if you work alone in isolation. There might be a better solution for your problem just around the corner. And that's where networks can really help. Can you go to another one? Not this one. Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, participating in networks like EU Robotics can quite easily help you build that cross-domain knowledge, find the right partners for your challenge, or find the next best solution, frankly. And that's where really the extreme power of cross-domain technology transfer steps in, because there is a very good chance that your engineering problem or your operational problem has been solved in some way in a field that you would never expect it, in agri-food or healthcare or aerospace, but you will never find out if you won't start looking above your own horizon. That's why participating in those networks, being active part of it, can bring you really, really big impact. And the other aspect is the influence of networks and groups of the stakeholders. And we have some great examples here in the European Union with the focus on robotics that's been built in this human-centric way with quite a holistic approach. And the final aspect that I'll touch on, and I know that Piotr will mention a bit more about this, is that well-recognized and large networks have some power to influence policy and regulation that in the future will serve the stakeholders of those networks rather than being created somewhere in isolation. So either if you're manufacturer or technology provider or systems integrator, working in collaboration, being part of community can only bring you benefits, especially if you look at so challenging applications like building flexible manufacturing systems. And I hope that this few minutes gave you maybe slightly different perspective on on some of the robotics for agile production challenges and how building communities and network can help you with that. And I'll hand over to Jota now, and he'll tell you a bit more about some of the robotics challenges and EU robotics topic groups themselves.
Okay, thank you so much. So just to build upon what you were saying, you know, robotics is inherently interdisciplinary. And I remember when I first started in robotics over 20 years ago, you had the mechanical engineers trying to talk with the electrical engineers, and the computer programmers were also having their role. And now we're talking going beyond this kind of engineering and working with social scientists. And we're looking at things like cycle time and accuracy, but also acceptance. And that really just extends the range and shows that you need new people, and you need to network to understand what's happening out there, and to really just keep an eye on this best practices that are happening. And like you said, I just kind of wanted to underline it. Robotics is also really special in that it's really what we like to say domain agnostic. A robot doesn't care whether it's massaging somebody's back or going from picking things off of an assembly line. You can train robots to do all of these different things, and so it's really broad. And then you have people who are working maybe in one domain very specifically, but the things that they've done and the solutions that they have are oftentimes very much applicable across the board. And so it's really important to have these networks to really make sure that you're not reinventing the wheel. Okay, so we've been talking the whole time about EU robotics, and we didn't even really introduce what is EU robotics. And I'm not sure with this organization and with this audience if you're familiar with it, but basically there were back in the 2000s, there was two different organizations. One was called European Robotics Technology Platform, and one was European Robotics, the Research Network. Those were Europe and Euron. And it was the research side together with the industrial side, and they were back then separate from each other. And the idea behind EU robotics, the Commission wanted to have one partner looking at both of these stakeholders' needs. And so in 2012, EU Robotics was founded. And for me, as a researcher working at Fraunhofer, it was just I felt at home, because it was bringing industry and research together. It was collecting the needs that industry has and matching that with the technologies and the capabilities that the different technology providers and research universities had to offer. And we were then connected a lot more in new ways. So we were making roadmaps, we were meeting yearly at the European Robotics Forum, and we were doing all kinds of road mapping activities along the way. EU Robotics is now still an organization. It's still running, and we are a founding member of the ADRA Association, which was the new PPP that the European Union had here for Horizon. And we will continue, because we found out that we really enjoy working together. We really like bringing research and industry together. We've been doing it now for over 11 years. So we have some experience there. And one of the experiences that we had right from the get-go, there was this idea of having so-called topic groups. These were divided along different lines, just to sort of categorize them and to understand them. We had what we call domain topic groups. We had cross-domain topic groups. We had technology-driven topic groups, and we had non-technical topic groups. And the idea was these were all grassroots organizations. And some of the things that they were doing was meeting together, having some kind of road mapping. We were doing some kind of outreach activities to get their members, to get them all together, so that we're all talking and we're all developing the roadmap and sort of seeing, where do we have connections, where do we have challenges that we can talk about together and both put on the roadmap. And then, as you said, Carol, to give a little more weight to it. And it's not just the miniature robots, people who are, traditionally pretty small, not just the robots, but also the community, and putting that together with industrial robots and logistics and transport. And all of a sudden you have a much larger heft, and then you're dealing with topics that are really suitable and necessary for all of these. So that was sort of the idea. Grassroots organization meant that EU Robotics didn't really give much guidance. They just said, do it however you want. If somebody steps forward and raises their hand and say, I'll be a coordinator, that was fine. If somebody else said, let's have a vote, that was also fine. So it took us a number of years to finally get to a point where we had some kind of governance set up that was basically based upon some of the experiences and best practices that all of these different topic groups had. One of the things that was important was that we said it was open to everybody. So while EU Robotics is a members-only organization, the topic groups are actually open. So we can actually get input and have people, let's say, be a part of this community without being paying members of EU Robotics. And that was kind of an interesting by design. The commission wanted that. They wanted to make sure that we were as inclusive as possible. We're still kind of dealing with that and trying to figure out, okay, where's the wall? You know, at what point are we open to everybody, and at what point do we have members only kinds of interactions? We'll be setting up a new platform in the near future, and I think there we'll have more chances to sort of separate that and keep that going. And basically what we're doing is, like I said, making a community. So it's getting people together, it's getting new researchers together, it's getting companies together, and getting people to just to talk with each other, basically. And the road mapping process is one way to do that. Other things that we do from the experience of industrial robotics is we have European Robotics Forum. So we have that's like a 3 or 4 day event in March or April, typically in March. We have a 90-minute workshop that we organize. Here you see one of the a workshop with around 80 to 100 people there. And what we do is we usually have some keynote speakers, typically also following the idea that we have industrial people talking about challenges, we have research talking about technologies, and then we have interactive workshops so that we have all these 100 people are actually in smaller groups of maybe 5 to 10 people. And within that group, they have a much better chance of talking, of sharing their ideas. You know how it is when one person talks and 100 people listen, it's not really the best interaction. And what you typically have then is afterwards you have a coffee break and people continue the discussions in the coffee break and then also in the year afterwards. So that's really exciting. We typically have a couple of online meetings where we're also doing some kind of either networking, matchmaking, or some kind of goal setting. And goal setting is within the context of EU Robotics, is saying, you know, what are the topics that are important? Some of the other topic groups do things even more along the lines of matchmaking, where industrial partners will define challenges and then really give the researchers a chance to address those challenges in a much more coordinated way. So we haven't done that yet in industrial robots, but we're looking into it because it's really exciting. And there's been really positive feedback from the other groups. We had some other topic groups looking at doctoral groups, so getting their doctorate students together, having them do colloquia in regularly scheduled meetings. And some meet, I said we were doing 2 to 4 meetings a year. Some other ones are doing monthly meetings. And like I said, the current focus is this kind of cross-topic group fertilization. Here you just have sort of a view, different kinds of road mapping activities that we're doing. This is from topic group safety, just as an example. So when we're talking about policy recommendations, I think it's really important to really consider that you're having volunteers here. And you need to set up some kind of incentives to get them involved, to get them to open their mouths, to get them to talk with each other. And one part of that is, I think, is to have clearly defined goals. And another thing that I was really like is enabling this grassroots idea and giving them freedom to experiment with different modes of operation, modes of talking that works. What I throw in just from my own kind of experience, I remember reading about this, something along this lines from the movies, what kinds of audiences they're looking for. I think what we're looking for us is we're looking for young researchers, we're looking for experienced researchers. And it's really important for us to also have industry and research. And when we have those mixed together, then it's really nice because the young people are really active, the experienced ones are able to weigh in on certain topics, and that's a really good mix. And I think going back to the first point, you know, considering that everybody's volunteers, is to make sure that you're not robbing people's time. I mean, this is all done, these kind of networks in our free time, maybe as part of, you know, our role in work. But if we're not getting anything out of it, or there's not a clear goal, then you're kind of going to get some fizzle. So that's really important to sort of keep that in mind. Okay, so that's it. Hope I didn't go too long. Any questions? Okay, I guess everybody already went into the break.
Any questions?
I see Shan Wang had a hand up. No.
Jovita, I think, has her hand. Like, is it from the last time or?
Yeah, I have a question if I have some time. Thank you for amazing presentation. It was very interesting to hear what you're doing. And you mentioned at the beginning, I think, that you went through this process of involving the workforce and engaging and going with the workforce through the process. Could you elaborate, like, did you have the methods at hand? Did you have to create the methods of engaging the workforce? And was it all intuitive? And how did you structure the process? My question is coming from as well policy report perspective, that we are looking at how to support small, medium-sized enterprise with the required tools of the end users engagement. So from your perspective, I'm curious, what was the process and what did you find out in the process? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good question, and yeah, we don't have any straightforward methods and method or process. I think the most important thing is to be inclusive and basically simply get everybody in one room, which very often can be very challenging, especially for larger organizations. But you know, even for SME, very often we have operators, you know, doing their day-to-day, and then production managers doing their day-to-day, having some minimal interaction, and then we have finance and general management, and those functions don't talk to each other. And there was on very many occasions where we stepped into the company to help them out with adopting robots. We pretty much kind of from the day one said, you know, if this is supposed to work, we need to put together requirements from everybody, and we need to put together, you know, a goal and a vision of what this is supposed to achieve. And just by getting everybody in the room and getting this conversation process more inclusive, that makes a big difference simply. And that very often doesn't happen. You will have some manufacturing manager that will, you know, come up with idea for adopting robot for this process, and he will talk with some systems integrator. Maybe he will get buy-in from finance or his ops director, and he will kind of drop it into the production where, you know, people can live with the myth of, you know, this robot will come and take our jobs. So being inclusive, taking everybody on this journey for day one, and then yes, simply starting with getting them all in one room and telling them the whole story, that makes a big difference. And yeah, it's not rocket science, but it seems to be very difficult for some organizations just because of how they are structured or how hierarchical they are, or yeah, how they communicate actually.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so listening to everybody and getting them in one room and listening and asking questions, that's I think that's really important. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks again. It was really, really important. And also it is really important to see how interdisciplinary work matters. That's also what we are trying to do in this project. Actually, we are trying to work interdisciplinarily and to focus on non-technical technological issues, basically, of robotics and robotics community. Now we will take a break for 15 minutes and we will be back at 3:30. And before the break, I would like to remind you of the RoboCompass tool, and I will leave my screen. I will leave the QR code. So we will, if you have time, and hopefully you will have time, we will ask you to just go through the tool itself, just check how it feels to you, how you find it. And then in the breakout rooms afterwards, we will be talking about different dimensions about the RoboCompass tool, and we will also have the chance to talk about what we have discussed thus far. So I will just go back to the QR code of RoboCompass. I will share my screen and you can have the QR code. And then we will be back at 3:30 to discuss more about this.
And if there's any questions related to the Robot Campus, I'll be here during the break as well.
Osnab, are you managing to put up the QR code? Yeah. Okay, now we see it.
I think we lost the QR code now. Yep, now it works perfectly.
Osnur, can I ask you something? You're muted, but I just wanted to check. So now, do we launch the poll about the RoboCompass in the main room or in the breakout rooms?
I actually want to ask it to Lucas. Lucas, do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I can hear you, but maybe that's me.
Are we still launching the poll, or would you like us not to do that?
We can do the poll maybe after the breakout session, or are we still doing a breakout session?
Yes, now we will do the breakout sessions.
Yeah, I thought maybe we can do it afterwards, because then maybe people can have a better understanding of the tool itself.
So then before, like, first thing in the breakout rooms, we can launch the poll?
No, I would do it when we all return to the main room, maybe, and we do the closing. Maybe we can do a quick poll there. And
but then the questions include, like, was it understandable? Was it easy to use? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, maybe we can do only the last couple ones then, since they're not actually testing the tool itself, I guess, unless they've done so during the breakout room. But yeah. I don't know how easy it is to edit those tools.
Yeah.
Those polls.
I think we're ready to start again.
True.
So, okay, we are then launching the poll after the breakout session when we are all back.
Yeah, that would be good.
So, welcome back to the main session. I hope you had the chance to take a look at the tool, to RoboCompass a little bit, and to get an idea about what it is about after what Lucas told us about the tool itself. And now we will have the breakout room discussion. And in the discussions, we will have a chance to take a better look at the details in the RoboCompass tool from different perspectives. Can we please launch the breakout rooms, Sylvia?
Yes, 1 second, sorry. Okay.
Hi, Sylvia. There you are too.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, sorry, I had to wait for the people in the main room to move because I had to make sure that they are assigned to a room. Welcome to the breakout room on the data issues. I see Dave, Andre, and Koray, if that's the right pronunciation. Can you hear me? Are you able to also unmute yourself and discuss, or it's better if we have a written chat?
No, it's okay. I'm unmuted. Hello.
Hello. Okay. Let me share my screen. Let me see which one is the right. This one. Okay.
And we should inform you that we will not be recording this session, but I will be taking some notes from what we talk about, just so you know.
Yes, thank you, Ninke. And I'm sorry, also I didn't have the presentation up ready. No, that's not what I meant. Okay. This will do it later. So the idea around this breakout session is just to get a little bit about what you think about the main data issues in the robotics area. But since it's a small breakout room, I think that maybe we can also start with a very short round of introductions. So you get to know each other and you also have a little bit of an opportunity for networking maybe among each other. And I can start. So I did the Robotics for EU presentation. So you know me kind of already. I am Silvia Ecclesia. I am a PhD candidate at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology, working on societal perception of artificial intelligence. And NTNU, the university, is also part of the Robotics for EU program. So that's why I'm here today. Ninka, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. My name is Ninki Browning. I have a master's in the same area Sylvia is doing her PhD in now. My area of expertise is chatbots mainly, and I currently work a part-time job for this project as well. So that's why I'm helping here today.
My name is Dave van Herk. I'm a TÜV certified machine safety expert, and I specialize in mobile robots. So a lot of AGVs and other stuff. Also cobots is a lot in my experience, and I have now for the last 10 years a lot of industrial or harbor solutions, let's say, what I do. And especially I'm just a consult. I like a safety consultancy. They hire me when it's before it's going wrong or after. That depends.
Thanks, Dave. Can I ask you, where are you based?
In Belgium, but I do a lot of Europe travel, and sometimes worldwide. Like I'm also working for the research center in Abu Dhabi. I have some consultancy work like that in Singapore, but mostly it's European and West European travel. Let's call it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And Andre?
I can be the next one. My name is Andre. I'm an automation engineer in the University of Delft in the Netherlands. So my work is regarding manufacturing of planes, of airplanes. So I use industrial robots in order to make either a wing or the fuselage of a plane. So I'm more as a user in this case, as a user of robots, and rather than a safety personnel, for example.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Andre. And Koray?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Actually, I'm a writer and editor in social sciences. I did a PhD on Utopia, so I'm not in the industry about robotics, automation, but I'm just an observer, that's I should say.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. And my research is also actually on imaginaries of technology. So it's very interesting to know that you also worked on utopias. So
very good.
Maybe then, like hearing about your profiles, data is not the most interesting thing of all, but I think that there is still something that we can discuss. So, sorry, I also need to assign people at the same time, but you can see on the screen. These are screenshots that are taken from the Responsible Robotics Compass that Robotics for EU is developing. So these are the questions that we ask when we ask robotics developers to fill in this robotics compass. So what do they think about not what do they think, but if their data sets is external to the robot, and how are the risks mitigated of having an external data set. So in general, I don't know if you have any actually comment or thing to add. Some other questions that we ask are around data collection. So how is the data collected? And then of course there can be risks that arise from collecting data in the workplace. So how those can be mitigated and how the data is stored. And which kind of data. So it's a very simple set of questions about data. So our main question for you is, do you think there is any other concern that we should take into account when we try to help robotics company to assess their robots? And especially when it comes to community building and so also maybe sharing of data. If you have any insight on that, if how can that be done, also taking into consideration intellectual property when a robot is shared among companies, who the data belongs to, and what could be also maybe an issue is that a lot of time workers are worried when there is a robot on the workplace because they think that data about them will be collected. So how to make sure that also imaginary and perception, it's a little bit more about trust and not so much about always trying to keep one's data to one's own in that sense. I talked a lot, so I don't know if you have any comments, that'd be great.
If I can speak, for me, it's important. Let's call it to identify the robot. So if I'm talking to a robot, a social robot, or whatever, or a chat robot, or I should know who's the owner or who's the guy or the factory or the company that is getting my details. So if we start a conversation, let's call it, with a robot, there should be some kind of ID or something on it. And mostly now it has a CE declaration or and something else, or some letters but for me, I think that's important also to have to trust the robot, and also the legal part, who's taking my data, what he's doing with his data I'm giving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a difficult field to discuss. So I like concrete examples. So one concrete example is, for example, an oven. So if we have an oven that is working in industry 4.0, so it's communicating with another piece of equipment, and it needs to be an accurate measurement of what temperature that oven can go. So if the temperature is 200 degrees, and if in order to communicate with different equipment, if we input the oven to go to 200 degrees, it should go to 200 degrees, independently of how do we access to it. It's a tough field in order because what the manufacturer should share. So if the manufacturer, we should use their own equipment in order to set up that temperature, 200 degrees, or can I set up in my PC here working 5 meters or working 5 kilometers away from it? How do we deal with those instances? It is a tough field to discuss. It's not easy.
Yeah. Sorry. There is one more part also in the it's more the social part of it. I had one experience in Germany with a Labour Party. You know, and it was we want robots to work with workers, just visitors, let's call it, no, workers, and we want to give the workers a smart vest to see. So the robot can see the guy walking. The smart vest has also indicators with sensors. So the robot was all the time viewing in a map where workers were, and he will not access the workplace in that kind. And in the vest there were indicators, also health indicators for the people who were wearing it, like heartbeat, sweating stuff, things like that. And it didn't go through because Labour Party said that it was, you have all these, you can see if the worker is sick, you can see if the worker will get a heart attack, stuff like that. So it was forbidden to use. And all the projects did not go through, just on this. So all the technology was there, everything was ready, the finance was there, and at the end there was let's say one guy said no, it's forbidden. Later we want to change it to that the vest is wearing randomly, that there is no name on it, so you don't know where people are, of this person is, but still then they they don't want to use it. So this is also about data and getting data. It's not so easy. Let's say it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point regarding privacy. So if we are looking at workers and evaluating workers based on an image with a camera that has a time, that has a date, and then use that against the personal or the employee in this case, that's definitely a big concern.
Yeah, so I think that, as you mentioned, Dave, in that case, the anonymization, like making the data anonymous, or I think it's very interesting what you said about having a sort of robot ID, so making sure that people are aware of who is this robot gathering data for, where are they going, is a mitigation strategy in that sense. I wondered maybe in the case that Andre was talking about, which is more about sharing data between companies, if I understood your example well, how can we mitigate maybe having some sort of data agreement, also like short time data agreement. I'm sharing this data with you only for this limited time, and then I'm not sharing it anymore. Or if you know about any kind of similar mitigation strategy.
From
So Ilke,
my,
yeah.
yeah, from my experience, I didn't face that issue yet. It's more about what do you do with that data? So, okay, so we give you more data, but what exactly are you trying to do with that data? It's more that question that becomes in the middle. And if you want to use that data in order to, I'm going to go back to the example of the oven. If you want to use that data in order to extrapolate more than what the oven should do, then you are compromising our product. And we are not going to give you that data. So if for example, you request a higher temperature than the oven can do, there should be some kind of a limit, and the manufacturer cannot be taken into account for, or cannot, or he will say that he shouldn't be taken into account because of an error from the other party that made. So for my field, it's more about what do you want the data for, then that becomes a bigger issue than probably the sharing itself.
I see. Okay. So more in, let's say, application of the data. And because I don't think we have a lot of time, I see that also Ilke joined the breakout room. So if you want to briefly introduce yourself and if you have any comments about data issues in robotics.
Yes, Sylvia, thank you very much. Hi, guys. I am İlker Bektaş. I am founder and CEO of Orbiva Robotics. Orbiva Robotics is an agriculture robotic company. We are trying to build small robot platforms for organic farmers, labor-intensive works. The thing that I want to add this collection of data is actually they are related with the user and people data, I guess. Somehow these data are shared with different marketplaces for the marketing purposes. Maybe most probably we should pay to the people that we are using their data. If they are not accepting it, they should be able to cancel this data as well. And there should be really hard regulations on the government side, I guess. Because as you know that not only the robots, but we can think about the bots. Even when we are talking in something, we are seeing these advertisements on our phones. So they are collected and they are just sold to the related business domains, and they are reflected with advertisements. So this is really a huge risk, I guess. But in terms of robotics, for example, our robot will work on farms, lands, and we are planning to use these farm data like soil data, plant data, and other related biodiversity data or something like that, to collect this data and try to make some insights out of that data, and to provide as insight to the farmers. So maybe in that process also it will be more easy, I guess, because we will make an agreement with our farmers, our customer. It's more better, I guess. But other than that, it's really a difficult issue, I guess.
Yeah, thank you, Ilket. I think that it's also a little bit even more complicated when it comes to the sector that we are discussing, agile production, where it's not only data more in the more commercial sense, maybe when how we are used to think about them, but sometimes it's data that are needed to be collected for the work that is happening with the robot. So I don't have the answer to that. Maybe it's a question that I can turn back to you. How do you think that we can manage privacy, but at the same time having the necessary data for the robots to work and make sure that the work is also quality work, so it has enough data to work well? And we haven't heard from Koray that much, so I'll call you out a little bit maybe and say if you have anything to add, also not specifically answering to my question.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm also collecting data now. I'm observing, and I only think in terms of surveillance, and when data is commodity, is really hard to think about community building. Or I think the Ilker's example or division is really good, but yeah, when I talk to a robot or chatbot, they're collecting data and selling them. It's data is when in this age data is commodity, it's really hard to talk about how to regulate or and comes to my mind in worker and robot relationship. I think it seems to me workers becoming more robots. It's like robots collecting data to learning your work, but also it affects the workers, right? It affects the workers to ideally work, or I don't know how to put it, but maybe people help me in this area more experience. Workers are becoming more and more robotized than ever. I know workers are always allegory for robots, but I think in these times it's more true than ever.
You mean maybe through the automation of the tasks that they have to do?
Yes, like it's really interesting relationship. Robots learning. Like I'm, for example, I'm a chess player, a little bit above the standard, and when I work through computers, I think I try to think like a machine, but machine learn it from me. Machine collected the data, all the human history of chess, all the great games, classics and positions, and machine understands by itself. Then machine taught me, and now I'm in competing with machine. And if I be competitive enough in this age, this is also true to the contemporary chess world, I have to think in terms of how to think like a machine, how to more stubborn and hard to defeat, and like this makes me more machine than ever. This is for me the interesting relationship. I think it's also true to workers. If I feel like that, I think workers also feel more and more like that, and I cannot deny why they don't want to. The example about West, I think, yeah. Oh my God, this is the room is closing now.
Yes, we have 1 minute left. I think so. Yes, if I can just close the circle, maybe I think it's interesting what you're saying, and at the same time, there is also a case for the other way around. Like you said, you're trying to think as a machine, and that the human workers are becoming more as machines in a way, like trying to automate their tasks or maybe try to emulate and be more standardized as a machine. While on the other side, in this human robot collaboration, there is also a lot in the other sense. So the robot that is actually learning from humans, also like very practical tasks of we saw in the workshop before this one, company that is developing a spray painting robot, and it's mimicking the exact same movement that a human is doing on another side. So it's a very interesting. Sorry, my session, I ended and didn't say goodbye, but thank you for the ones that were in the data session.
Yes, and same for the socioeconomic session. We were in the middle of a very interesting discussion. So, but I will put my email here in the chat if any of you want to contact further.
Okay, welcome back. I hope you all had a very fruitful discussion in the breakout rooms. So now we can, maybe, is there anything you would like to say about the tool in general, about RoboCompass in general? If not, we can also initiate the poll. So we will have a poll about the tool itself.
I launched the poll, so you should see it like last time in a section in the ones underneath.
And we can mention for those of you who haven't had a chance to use the poll yet, we are very happy to receive any comments later on as well. So you can also contact our project for that.
Yeah, maybe we can hear more about people who thought that it was difficult to understand and that they don't know how to make use of it.
And I see we have a request to show the tool by screen sharing. But I think our workshop allocated time is soon running out, so we might not have time for that. But it's very good feedback for us for next time, since we will have more workshops in this team.
And if anyone else is still interested to see it, then I can hang around for a bit.
Yeah, in the chat, there is Ahmed Sajid, if I pronounced it right, who said that he tried the tool but didn't find it and understand it much.
Should I end the poll now, Osno? And we will close
Are you all ready? Do you want like just some more seconds to fill in the poll, or can we finalize the poll? Thank you, Christina.
Thank you and bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
So I'm finalizing the poll now. Thanks for the feedback, and yeah, we are running out of time. So we can just have a short like general discussion maybe about it. And especially from people who found it difficult to understand or who could not really understand how to make use of it in their line of work, we can just have some words and then maybe we can close the session afterwards.
Yes, thank you. I can summarize very briefly from the socioeconomic side, where we had a look at the tool and discussed that it's very important also that high-level policymakers, governmental workers, CEOs also get an understanding of what robots really are.
And in the legal issues part, there was the need uttered for more specific legal questions, or because the legal regulations and policies might change according to the country, and the questions are too general, and they must be more specific according to the different regulations of the country. So there was this feedback. And then there was another feedback saying that the scoring was not very understandable. They didn't understand how the tool weighted different responses. So there might be an explanation about that.
I had the data session, but I think that also it's 4 p.m. and maybe people have to move on to other meetings. But the discussion was very, very interesting, and thank you everyone for joining. I don't know, Osnur, we can talk about the sessions later.
Yes, thanks a lot. Thanks for your time, and thanks for your insights.
Yes, thank you all for coming. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The record.
Bye-bye.
Bye.